how much weight should you expect to lose every week? Now, I know most people, most experts in the field will tell you that you should expect to lose about a pound, pound and a half per week, that's a realistic expectation. I would strongly disagree with that and say instead that you should expect to lose 0 pounds every week. Sounds a little bit controversial, but it's the reality of what I've seen working with literally hundreds of people losing weight over the past 30 years. I'll explain why. So, how much weight should you expect to lose every week? Very common question. And the answer, as I said before, is usually somewhere between a pound to a pound and a half. The problem with that is that when someone says that the average weight loss for someone over a period of time is about a pound per week, it's a statistic that you're quoting and you're averaging based on the principles of averages and the principles of statistics. Now, statistics are really fantastic ways for us human beings to put data into perspective, to give us some insight, to be able to see patterns, to be able to understand in which direction something or a trend is going. It's really, really useful. The problem is it doesn't always apply in a very straightforward way to our lives. I'll give you an example. If the unemployment rate in your country is only 2%, that number makes sense for the population as a whole, or for someone looking at the population as a whole. But on a very personal and human level, if you're not working, if you can't find a job, and you're doing everything to find a job, and you've been unemployed for a really long time, as far as you're concerned, the rate of unemployment is 100%. That 2% number doesn't mean anything to you because it doesn't apply to you specifically. And it's the same when it comes down to weight loss. If we look at how people tend to lose weight over a period of time, the numbers can often line up in a way where it appears to be that the person lost about a pound of weight per week. Now, that's if the person is eating consistently well, following a sensible diet, and not doing anything extreme. But a pound is usually what's quoted, and statistically, yes, you could expect to see a statistic average loss of about a pound a week if you're trying to lose weight and if you're conscientious with your diet, not making any mistakes. That's what the average might look like, but it's not what you should expect. Because again, an average is a pattern over time. It's not actually what happens, it's the patterning of what happens. And I'll explain how this can sometimes cause confusion and actually cause a lot of people to go off their diets and stop eating properly, because it can be extremely frustrating. The problem is, if you look at anything in the human body, and anything that the human body does, it doesn't operate in a linear fashion. Now, our brains are very, very, very linear. We think in a very linear perspective. We talk about weight loss as, 1 pound per week. We expect that if we, do anything that, that incremental gain that we get from whatever activity we do should be very linear. Human body's not linear at all. In fact, what was extremely helpful to me was looking at some data that was used to measure the growth of newborns. They looked at newborns and infants in general, and they were charting their growth. And what the researchers found was really interesting. You see, when they looked at an infant for a short period of time, very often they saw no growth at all. Now, initially, the researchers were a little bit puzzled by the fact that it could literally be as long as a month and there would be no increases whatsoever in the growth of that particular newborn, even though they were eating regularly, even though the nutrition was sound, even though they were breastfeeding and they were getting exactly what they should be getting to get bigger and increase their size, but nothing was happening. Yet, over longer observations, they would suddenly see spikes of growth. An infant could literally grow by several centimeters over the course of a 24-hour period, and then not grow at all, and then spurt and grow again, and then grow and stop growing. And what they found was that this growth process in infants is very much something that happens in spurts. Now, you could statistically look at that and say, okay, well, this particular infant increased in size by a quarter of a pound every month, or a quarter of a pound every whatever period of time you're looking at, or X number of centimeters over a month or a week. You could break it down that way. But that would not be a realistic assessment of what you would see in real time. And the same applies to weight loss. Weight loss does not happen in a linear fashion because our bodies are not linear. Nothing in our biology is linear. Everything is based on rhythms, and those rhythms operate, unfortunately, in ways that we don't always fully understand. And when it comes to something like losing body fat or losing body weight in general, we can look and see, and I can tell you from experience, having worked with people who have lost over 100 pounds over the course of, let's say, 9 to 13 months, that yes, we could look at their weight loss and extrapolate and say, okay, they lose X number of pounds per week. But again, that's not what usually happens. Let me explain what I have seen working with people who lose weight. Initially, there's going to be a dramatic change. So that change is going to be directly proportional to how much weight and how overweight you may be. If someone is, let's say, 100 pounds overweight, they can expect to see a weight loss of 5 pounds per week in their first several weeks, a number which will slow over time, and eventually they won't lose weight every week anymore. They may lose weight every other week. They may lose not necessarily 1 pound per week or a quarter of a pound. Sometimes they may lose nothing at all, and all of a sudden they lose 2 pounds. And all of a sudden again, they lose 3 pounds. Then there's another period of time where there's nothing going on, not losing any weight at all. Then they lose 5 pounds. That's kind of what I tend to see with people losing weight. And we have, with our personal training setup, a system that allows us in very real time to see the progress of our clients, how they lose weight. One of the projects that we were doing with UNICEF, where we had about 324 people working from UNICEF who were charting their weight loss and going through the training and dietary protocols that we set up for them, we could see very much the same patterns. Depending on how much weight someone had to lose, there was always this initial large number of weight that's lost on a weekly basis, and that number tapers off and eventually becomes 0. Then it happens in spurts. Now the problem is, and the reason why it's important to have good coaching and good support system, is that it's really hard to step on that scale. You're eating properly, you're doing everything you need to be doing, you're exercising, and you see nothing happening from week to week. Initially, you start thinking something is wrong. You're doing something wrong. And the reality is, you're not. Now, going on social media, going online, everything is all about, 1 pound, expect 1 pound per week. And so you think, wait a minute, I'm not losing 1 pound per week, so I'm doing something wrong. You may not be doing something wrong. If you're doing everything right, what you need to do next is not to expect to lose weight in a linear fashion. Don't expect to lose a pound every week. Expect to eat properly every day. Expect to make sure you exercise as much as you're supposed to on a weekly basis. Expect that you need to really feel at the end of every single week that you did everything that you needed to do if your goal is to lose weight or to maintain a healthy body weight. That's what's important. That's what's real and applicable to real time. Not the numbers on the scale, because it can't be that every single week you'll lose a pound. That logarithmic decrease in body weight would mean that over the course of a year, anybody trying to lose weight would lose 52 pounds. And we all know that doesn't happen. It would mean that somebody who weighs, 104 pounds would disappear in 2 years if they're dieting and exercising regularly. We all know it doesn't work like that. The human body does not want to lose weight. Weight loss for the human body often means, especially fat loss, I should probably say, often means that something is wrong, and it'll do everything to try to stop your body from losing more body fat. Because when you start losing body fat, your body says to itself, I think we might be starving, so we need to hold on to as much resources as possible because we are not exactly sure if we have a stable food supply. Again, your body doesn't know there's supermarkets. Your body doesn't know that it's your willpower and a decision that you're making to eat less. It does not know. All it knows is that what kept us alive for the past several million years is that stopgap of doing everything to be conservative as far as our energy expenditure is concerned, to moderate our body weight, which really throws a monkey wrench in the idea of losing 1 pound of body weight per week. It simply doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, people tend to not see that number. I'm not losing a pound a week. Something is wrong. I'm really dieting hard. I'm really working hard. Forget it. And they give up in frustration. And I think that's the biggest danger that happens when you're using the scale as your guide. Because it's not. Your guide is your process. Did you do everything today as far as the way you need to eat? That's your guide. Did you do everything today as far as your exercise? That's your guide. That's your expectation. Your expectation should be that you should expect to feel good about doing all those things, because those things will make you feel good. If you're eating properly, I said eating properly. I didn't say starving yourself. I didn't say being on an extreme diet, because extreme diets in and of themselves, one can argue, if we're using a statistic model, that with an extreme diet, you can potentially gain weight every week if you look at what happens over the course of, let's say, a year. Because most of the times extreme diets, that weight you lost, you're going to gain back. So did you really lose a pound per week when you were dieting so hard, or more, dieting really, really hard? Not necessarily. You have to look at the big picture. But if you take a moderate approach, make sure you're eating in a healthy and balanced manner, not too extreme, taking it like a marathon, not a sprint, taking care of yourself, taking care of your body. You will, if you avoid processed foods and train hard enough, you will lose body fat over time and build muscle, and you will probably see the numbers on the scale go down. But it's not going to be dramatic, and you shouldn't expect dramatic. We shouldn't expect to always have a reward. We shouldn't always expect to have the sense of accomplishment because the numbers on the scale went down. That shouldn't be your drive. Your drive should be a healthy lifestyle. Get that in focus. Get your eating in focus. Get your exercising in focus. Let the numbers fall where they are, because that's what's really important. So again, how much weight should you lose if you're trying to lose weight on a weekly basis? The answer is 0. You shouldn't expect any weight loss at all. If it happens, that's great. It's fantastic. If it doesn't happen in a week, don't worry about it. 2 weeks, don't worry about it. 3 weeks, don't worry about it. Depending on how much weight you've lost before, the time between your actual weight loss, are going to be longer and longer. If I'm at 8% body fat and I'm trying to lose those last 2 pounds, it's not going to be 1 pound per week. It's not going to be anywhere near that. It could take months before I lose 3 or 4 pounds if I'm taking a moderate approach. That's how it works. Now, in the beginning, again, you get excited. I'm losing a lot of weight. I'm seeing the progress, and it starts slowing down. That slowing down isn't you doing anything. That's your body being your body. So let your body be your body. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you don't see those numbers moving, but focus on what you need to do. You do that, and you know what? Those numbers in and of themselves might be important intellectually, but again, in a real world, no one cares how much you weigh. People care for themselves about how they look. People care for themselves about how they feel. So let's focus on that instead. Thanks for listening, and Excelsior.